Hi, everyone. It's been a few days and it's a new week, so I thought I would put out something brand new to get us all kind of in the right mentality going forward for whatever you may be headed towards this week. Um, I've been thinking a lot over the weekend, and I mostly just rested and tried to kind of recover from the time change. And it's not like you lose an hour, in my opinion. You lose an hour every day until you adapt to just having that hour lost. And so it's kind of tough. It's just tough. It takes some time to work through. And I think people with mental illness or bipolar disorder or whatever, there's just something extra, there that it makes it just tough. And so it's been a hard week. It's been a lazy weekend. I think that's just all I can ask for. Sometimes you just have to ride the wave, and I feel like that's what I'm doing with this time change this year. I hope you are too. Practicing patience in those moments is really, really tough, and I would love to do a video on that now that I think about it. But I mentioned in my last video that I wanted to talk about the difference between acceptance and resignation, particularly with mental illness diagnosis, because I think that, and I've said this before, I think that a lot of people have a tendency to confuse the two, or they think that they mean the same thing when they don't. Sorry, I did not realize that these were so messy. Let me clean them up a little bit. So acceptance and resignation, there is a definitive line between the two, and I just wanted to take a little bit of time here. I did a very quick search. I kind of browsed through one of the articles. This is what I do for YouTube. I don't prepare because I feel like if I'm prepared, then it takes a little bit away from like the reality of how I interpret things as I read them with you. So I don't know if this is a good way to do it, but this is just how I've been starting on this because I feel like this gives me kind of a starting point and a way to kind of like express as we're reading articles or definitions, kind of like the personal value that they hold for me. And like I said, if I prepare too much, then it's going to be this whole thing of, well, I've done this and I've done that and I have to talk about this and I have to talk about that. And I don't want it to be, at least not yet. I don't want it to be that way where I just feel like I'm constantly, organizing everything before I read along with you because I want to just have it soak in the way it soaks in. So I've left my mouse. I think you can see it this time. So you may see me kind of shrink my screen here and there to get me out of the way a little bit. But this will help you also see where like you can click on things if you pull up this similar search. And of course, I will attach all of these links that I use for articles and everything else into the description of my video. So you can go and you can find them easily. There may even be some contact information if you're going through something really hard and you need a little bit extra help. So it's just a great way to kind of cite whatever I'm working with here in these conversations. So the first thing that I did today was I looked up acceptance specifically for psychology. I think it can be a broader definition for, kind of like a more basic thing. But I thought if we targeted in on the actual psychology of acceptance, then it gives us a chance to actually take it to meaning to our mental health. So right here, this is what I did. What is acceptance in psychology? And what came up here is psychological acceptance refers to the process of embracing thoughts, emotions, and other internal experiences without judgment and without trying to change them. So when I was diagnosed 9 years ago, nearly, I did have a hard time accepting my condition and accepting what was happening to me because, and I'll get there in a second, but there is another link here that talks about why we do this. I think it's human nature in part to resist whatever diagnosis we may have that's not cut and dry, black and white. And bipolar disorder and mental illnesses are not black and white. And so there is in part a stigma attached to all mental illnesses because we don't understand them. And we've kind of had a prejudice as a society about what they are since the dawn of time, or when it became apparent that mental illness was more prevalent in the world. And the stigma, and over here, when I did a search for accepting a bipolar disorder diagnosis, and if I scroll up here, okay, why is it hard to accept? Let's just go through this from the beginning. But it will explain here better in words than I can, but it does have a lot to do with the stigma about mental illness diagnosis. If you've just received a diagnosis of bipolar disorder, it can be challenging to accept the diagnosis, let alone begin treatment. Hearing that you have bipolar disorder is a life-changing moment, one that many people find it hard to accept. Don't beat yourself up for feeling this way. Coming to terms with a mental health diagnosis is hard for a number of reasons. It's hard because it may feel like your future will be different from what you imagined. I thought I was going to be a mom. I had this whole idea, not that I was a big kid lover like some women are, but I thought I would have one child. I thought my path at 42 years old was going to look very, very differently than it looks now. But it didn't happen. And I had to find acceptance. I had to learn how to accept that and have peace about that, because that's a big way that my life didn't turn out the way that I planned. Acceptance can be very, very hard because you kind of have to let go of some ideals that you've held on to since you were a child. And it's just I feel like acceptance with being childless it's ongoing. I'm going to be trying to learn more and more how to accept, how to grow, how to be okay as time goes on. When my niece gets married or has a baby of her own, that's going to be hard for me. She's like the daughter I never had. I'm very, very close with her. But I'm the aunt, and I'll always be the aunt, and I love being the aunt. That's fine. But this path that I'm on now is not where I saw myself when I was 10 years old or 13 years old or 15 years old. I thought I was going to be a mother. And I had to let go of some of my ideas so that I could really discover a new way of living. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. But I think that stigma of, lifestyle with mental illness, it's hard to erase after so many years of it being attached to mental illness and mental illness diagnosis. Let's see. It might feel like you won't be able to overcome your symptoms, or that others might define you by your mental health condition. Even though there are some barriers to acceptance, there are ways to see your diagnosis through a different lens. For instance, hearing that there's no cure for bipolar disorder can be disheartening. When I found out, when I got my diagnosis, and then I started reading about bipolar disorder, and I started doing all of these things, and then I kind of came to the realization that this is terminal. This is going to follow me to my grave. There's no way to rid it. It's not like a broken arm that you can repair. You can, and have it be completely functional in many ways moving forward. There are athletes out there who break a leg, and 3 months later that they're at the Olympics. It's amazing. With bipolar disorder or mental illness, it's kind of like a piece of our mind is somewhat broken, and we have to learn how to mend it well enough to have a good life. And there are people with bipolar disorder and mental illnesses who have gone on to do extravagant things. I don't see myself being that way. All of our diagnoses are there. It's on a scale. We're all on this scale, and some are going to be more extreme than me, and some are going to be less extreme than me. And we just have to find where we are on that scale and embrace the growth that comes with it as best we can find out, and keep with it over the years and over the decades. And then that way, when my goal is to be an old lady. I mean, my husband would tell you I'm already an old lady, but I would like it to make it to my elderly years. And the first thing that the kids in my life see about me, I don't want it to be like, well, she has a broken mind. She's not really okay. I want them to see how okay I can be. I want to be a good example to them. I want to be a good example to the world, because you can live with mental illness in a healthy and happy way, even if you aren't an Olympic gold medalist, you know? Okay, in reality, there are a number of treatments available to help you manage your symptoms and live a full life. Full life. Once you've accepted bipolar disorder for what it is, you can start accepting treatment that will improve your quality of life and alleviate the challenges that come with the diagnosis. Why is it hard to accept? This was really fascinating. I just kind of scanned through it before I started this video. Bipolar disorder is a stigmatized condition, and this will go into that a little bit. It'll explain it better than I can, but I can elaborate on it some. Stigma surrounding mental illness conditions still exist in the media, online, and via word of mouth. Many people with mental health conditions don't seek help because they're concerned about being treated differently, whether that's at work or in their social lives. But it's not just stigma from others that creates challenges in accepting bipolar disorder. If you've recently been diagnosed with bipolar disorder, you may carry that stigma yourself. You could have internalized a certain prejudice against mental health conditions that makes it hard for you to come to terms with your diagnosis. The prejudice against mental illness and bipolar disorder is what keeps people, I think, maybe not 100% of the time, but it's a pretty strong factor in why people don't seek treatment, because they don't want this like tag. They don't want this attached to them, you know? They don't want to feel like they're marked for this. And I think for me, I pardon me, but I don't really give a damn if I have a mark on me that shows that I'm bipolar. I really don't care. Because if I have that mark and others see me living well, that breaks the stigma, even in a small portion. It breaks the stigma. So I feel like, you know, the more we can just be okay with who we are, mental illness and all, and strive for better days on a regular basis, the better example will be to the world. The better example will be to the children in our lives, whether they're our own flesh and blood or not. You know, like, we have an opportunity to show that we can do this well and with peace and with confidence and with a sound mind. There are ways to do it. Let's see. That. The recent news of your diagnosis may bring up thoughts like, I'm dangerous, I'm incompetent, it's my fault, and why try? Those self ways of talking, like, I'm dangerous, I'm incompetent, it's my fault, why try? That is bordering on resignation. And we haven't gotten into the definition of resignation yet, but that is bordering on it. This kind of internal monologue is often the result of self-imposed and societal stigma. To help you understand and change these unhelpful thoughts, it may help to read about someone's experience going through something similar. About 3 in 4 young adults and teens seeking information online about depression said they were looking for personal stories from people who went through what they did in the past. That is why I'm doing this channel. And space. But that is why I'm doing this channel. We aren't, with those of us with bipolar disorder or another mental illness, we don't all have the same experience. And like I said, there's a spectrum, there's a scale. You may be, your disorder or multitude of, like, if you've got ADHD, bipolar, borderline personality, if you've got kind of a laundry list here, it's going to be harder for you. But from my personal experience, and I'm very, very grateful that I've been able to do what I can, but from my experience, the harder it is to overcome something, the more rewarding it is when you do. It really is. It's such a powerful thing. And then there's like this purpose behind it where you just feel like, oh my gosh, that was such a great example to those who look up to me, or to, you know, I can leave a legacy here of this. I want to do more. It pushes you. The value of sharing stories isn't exclusive to depression or being a teen. It can be incredibly comforting and inspiring at any age, particularly if you're living with bipolar disorder. That's what I'm doing. That's all I'm doing. I'm just starting a YouTube channel to share how I live with it, how I live well-minded with it, how I don't turn to drugs and alcohol and poor choices with it. I feel like there is a whole other side of lifestyle with mental illness that needs to be embraced, and I've found a little corner of it, and I want to share. That's all. Another reason for having a hard time to accepting your diagnosis is it might affect your self-image. We often set expectations for ourselves and our futures. A bipolar disorder diagnosis may feel like a shock or an obstacle in living the kind of life you imagined for yourself. I kind of already talked about that earlier. The not having children thing, I would define as an obstacle. That has been hard to overcome. And like I said, there'll always be a hole in my heart. I'll always grieve it. But it doesn't have to define my journey here. And I think that there's when it's kind of cliche to say, but when God closes a door, he opens a window. But there was also another one that I read that I loved, and it said something about if you're standing at a door and it won't open, it's not your door. It doesn't mean there's not another door that will open for you. May not be what you imagined, but it doesn't have to be the worst thing in the world. I do believe there are treatments, there's techniques, there's practices that can help you move forward on any path you find yourself on. Let's see. Though it may feel this way, it's absolutely possible to live a full, happy, and fruitful life after you've been diagnosed with bipolar disorder. It's a myth that people with mental health conditions can't live productive lives, have relationships, and work. Amen. Amen. That's all I can say about that. Period. ... Treatment can feel daunting. Aside from the stigma, it may be difficult to accept a new routine and lifestyle that includes regular treatment for bipolar disorder. Treatment isn't one size fits all. That is mentioned in so many articles because we're all different. We're never going to find a one size fits all approach for all of us. That's just not how it works, and that's not how life works. But it often involves a combo of medication and therapy. After receiving a diagnosis, a mental health professional will be able to assess if you need therapy, the type, and how often that therapy should take place. Depending on their suggestion, this can be difficult to accept, very much so. I don't see a therapist, to be quite honest. I never have. Maybe someday I will go that route. I just never have. I just kind of learned by kind of looking at YouTube and subscribing to BP Hope magazine and reading testimonials from other people. Like it kind of guided me in my own way. Maybe someday therapy will be for me, but I haven't felt the need for it. And the way that I express my journey with my friends and family, and now YouTube, I think is a really great way in some ways of practicing that kind of therapy, even if I don't go to an actual therapist. But we're all different. There's no one size fits all. Don't go looking for a one size fits all fix because it's not out there. Let's see. Seeking treatment and sticking to your treatment plan is one of the most effective ways to improve and maintain your mental well-being. Once you're able to establish a routine, you'll start seeing the benefits of making self-care a priority every day. That's why this time change has been hard, because it screwed me up, and then we had family here, and so I wasn't able to have my bookend where I talked in my last video about taking care of myself in the morning, taking care of myself at night in the routine way that I do it. Like I have this whole, when we were first doing astrophotography, I was staying up really late because we didn't have observatories where we can lock them down at the end of the night, so we had to stay up all night and then bring all the gear in at sunrise. And I was screwing with my schedule, and it was hard. It was really, really hard. But thankfully now where we are with having the observatories, it's freed me up to still be able to have my nightly routine and take care of myself. And it is a priority to me. That's a priority. I have some priorities in my life. Prioritizing self-care is up there with my faith, with my medication. It's up there. It's at the top of the list. Ooh, this might be good. I haven't read this. How can I move towards acceptance? Moving toward accepting your diagnosis is a process. It's completely understandable to need time to adjust when learning how to manage bipolar disorder. With that being said, accepting and treating your mental health condition is something that you'll thank yourself for in the long run. If this is hard for you to believe, or if you feel like there's nothing you can do to manage your condition, consider listening to other people's stories. Even if you don't know anyone with bipolar disorder personally, support systems are available to you. You can check out some support options on the Depression and Bipolar Support Alliance website. There's a link right here. You can easily access it. In fact, when I do my description, I'll add the link to this article, but then I'll also add the link separately of this support group website. I've never done that, but I think that actually I might have to go look into that because that actually sounds pretty cool. Living well with bipolar disorder. Finding the right support system is crucial in navigating bipolar disorder. Living well with bipolar disorder is absolutely possible with the right tools and approach. Whether it's accepting your diagnosis, telling people about your condition, or finding the right medication and dose that's the biggest challenge for you, there's always ways to address these challenges and move forward. I'm going to read that last line again, and I'm going to capitalize one word. There's always ways to address these challenges and move forward. I'm leaving it at that. Often just having more information can be enough to convince you to seek and stick with your treatment. Learning more about how to manage mania, hypomania, and depression, all of which are common in some types of bipolar disorder, can have you feeling empowered to take action when these mood episodes arise. Absolutely. I think last week when I was kind of borderline in the car and I was like, my eyes were welling up with tears and I was feeling off and I wasn't sure, just like knowing how to manage that, like in the moment, like with the mindfulness, like being like, okay, this isn't okay. Something I need to go sit. I need to stop. I need to stop what I'm doing and I need to sit. I need to eat. I need to listen to other people talk. I just need to stop. And I know that about myself, and it is very empowering because you take that action and you run with it, and it inspires you to do it more and more often. Learning about depression triggers, for me in the car, and finding your own unique triggers can help you notice them early and prevent or lessen the impact of depressive episodes. It can also help to read up on self-help strategies for living with bipolar disorder, taking up new habits like keeping a mood diary. I've done this before. Following a routine, my bookended routine, and learning ways to manage stress can improve your well-being and quality of life. This talks about other acceptance of other mental illnesses or mental health issues, major depressive disorder, anxiety, borderline personality, ADHD. These are things I can't talk to you about. I don't have experience with those. If I do, I have not been diagnosed. I wonder if I have a little bit of, I don't think borderline personality disorder, major depressive, no, but I think anxiety and ADHD may be in my book a little bit, but I do think that even the one medication that I take for my bipolar, the antipsychotic, I do think that it helps with those other things a little bit too. So, but I've never had a diagnosis. Let's see. Oh, misdiagnosed. Ugh. It can also make it, I was misdiagnosed, I think, because I didn't get my diagnosis until I was 33, and there were signs in high school. I had some pretty major signs in high school in my 20s, but I was also going through jaw joint surgery. I've talked about this very little, but I had 7 surgeries in 5 years from 2002 to 2007, and I have partial bilateral jaw joint implants, 16 screws in my face. And I was going through stuff. So I think that I was being misdiagnosed in part because this pain and chronic lifestyle that I was having with my jaw was kind of overshadowing anything else and when somebody's in chronic pain, it can make you kind of crazy. Like it can make you erratic and mad. And that's what I was. Had I known I had bipolar disorder and been diagnosed younger and been on this medication, I might have been more easygoing about the pain I was in. I was pretty awful about it. But, when there's multiple things happening, it's hard to narrow it down, that jaw stuff. My jaw fell apart when I was 13 and I didn't get it fixed until I was 20, 02 to 07, 26. So 13 years I was dealing with my jaw stuff. And I mean, it's better. I still have my days, but it's better. This talks about next steps you can take. National Alliance on Mental Illness provides more information about bipolar. Find a psychiatric database. Oh, this is great information. The Depression and Bipolar Support Alliance offers free online support groups and other information. I'm serious. If you don't have like a social support network, even if you do, but you feel like you need something else, kind of like a non-bias group in your life, these are excellent excellent suggestions. Ooh, the last line here. Let me take a sip. An important thing to remember is you're not alone. Living a full and productive life with bipolar disorder is definitely an achievable goal, regardless of what makes you believe otherwise. Once you've accepted your bipolar disorder diagnosis, a world of possibilities are open to you. This is an excellent article. It looks like there's more. What to expect. This goes on. This is a very long article. I love this. We may have to go through this entire thing. I would love to do that on here. Let's just start with the acceptance part, and then I'll look at the other stuff before I do a video on it. But I'm going to go to the top here so I can tell you. This is from psychcentral.com, and the title is why it's difficult to accept a bipolar disorder diagnosis and what helps. That I'm absolutely going to link into my description, as well as some of the other links that they offer below for support. So it's easy for you to find. If you can't find it, you want me to email it to you, please email me at thebipolarastrosphotographer@gmail.com. I have no problem sending you stuff that way as well. But I did want to read very briefly the other side. So you've got acceptance on this hand. Like we've got a weight thing here. You've got acceptance on one hand, and then on the other side, you have resignation. And I looked up right here, what is resign in psychology? Central to a state of resignation is a sense of feeling defeated and incapable of creating change. On some level, it means giving up, and with good reason, as you might feel like the odds are completely stacked against you. That is a perfect definition, and I think where people get the definition between resigning and acceptance. So let's see, what did acceptance say here? Refers to the process of embracing thoughts, emotions, and other internal experiences without judgment and without trying to change them. So I think the biggest contrast between these two definitions are, and yeah, things in life you're going to have to resign to. Like, I had to resign to the idea of being a mother. Likewise, I've also had to accept not being a mother. They can go hand in hand. That can be so huge. But if you see a place in your life where you're being kind of, whatever it is that's happening to you is kind of pushing you towards giving up, look for the other window. Look for the acceptance window and go through, or the door, like I was talking about in the hallway. Like you're at the door and it won't open. That's not your door. Look for the acceptance door. Look for the next door, the one that will open to you. And no, it may not be colored the way that you thought it was going to be, but it doesn't have to be. You don't have to end up living the life you always thought you were going to live to be happy in this world, mental illness or not. I promise you don't. I think we just need to discover the differences between acceptance and resignation and how they can actually be used to help us move forward when things get really, really hard. It happens all the time. Something else I had to kind of let go of, like I always thought that I would like travel, and I wanted to be on Broadway. I love singing. I thought I was going to be on Broadway and travel and do theater and sing and dance. And then my jaw fell apart. And I had to resign that idea and accept my reality and just push forward through it. Sometimes just the action of like pushing forward, even if you don't know where you're going, it has worth, like there's value in that you're just pushing forward. There was a quote in my book, I can't remember, I'd have to go back and look, but it was something about that. It was like, just keep pushing forward, knowing, because just doing that action by itself has value, regardless of what comes. But when something starts coming into your life it's like not meant for you, if the shoe don't fit, that ain't your shoe. That doesn't mean there's not another shoe out there that may fit in a totally different way that you never saw coming, that you love. I didn't see deep space astrophotography coming for me. Never mind my husband being interested in it too. We have the same hobby, like the big hobby that we do, we have in common. I never saw that coming. And it's because when the signs of resignation were in my face, like, nope, can't go this way. You're not going to do this. You're not going to be a mom. You're not going to be on Broadway. Then this whole other life opened for me that I never even saw coming. And while it's not what I expected, I love it. I'm living in my childhood home. We bought my childhood home from my parents in 2021. So we've been here almost 3 years. I'm home. I am where I'm meant to be. And that would have never happened if I completely resigned against my diagnosis, against the life I thought I was going to have. I never would have gotten here if I had completely given up and didn't learn how to accept the things that aren't meant for me and embrace the things that are, even if that's not what I imagined. Perfect. I just think that that's a beautiful way of putting it. I will attach all of these links to what was in this new tab here. Is this just blank? That's blank. I will here. Let me make my screen bigger. It's kind of weird. I'm sorry. I should have had my screen bigger for the end there when I was just talking. I just had it on the screen. I'm still, feeling this out, figuring it out. But no, while we might not all experience the same thing with bipolar disorder, let's say you're watching this and you just have bipolar disorder like me that you know of. It may be harder for you. It may be easier for you. What's hard for one might be easy for another. There shouldn't be any judgment involved. It's like that Einstein, I think it's Einstein that said, if you expect a fish to climb a tree, it'll live its whole life thinking it's stupid. Some people are just better at some things than others. Some people have to work harder. Some people have more obstacles. But it's like climbing a mountain. Living with mental illness is like climbing a mountain. And I really, truly do believe that there is a beautiful view. There's beautiful views along the way. You just have to have your eyes open to them. You can't have these blinders on and be like, no, I'm not going to look for anything else. This is the life that I planned. I don't want to look anywhere else. That's just a huge disservice to allowing possibility in. And we have an opportunity, all of us in the world have an opportunity to let new possibilities in, especially when our dreams don't come true. So don't be discouraged by it. Be hopeful by it. Be inspired by it. Oh, this isn't meant for me. Where am I supposed to go now? Maybe it'll be something good. Maybe it won't be. And then I'll find something else from there. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. So let go of some of your ideas. Allow yourself to see other possibilities for yourself, other potential. I love that, I've gotten to a place where I can really enjoy my life. And I just want that for everybody who watches this. I want you to enjoy your life. I want you to find joy with people, with your family, with your friends. So interesting. Like, I had a best friend move last summer. I miss her more than I can express. But like a month after she moved, I met somebody new because I don't have any other friends here. And so it was like, another one of my friends who doesn't live here, when I told her the story about me meeting this person right after my bestie moved, she called it a tender mercy. Like this person entered my life, and no, she'll never be my best friend like the one that moved will be, that'll never happen. But it's just so nice to have somebody else, and she and I've been through a lot of the same things. So we have a lot in common. So that helps, it was a possibility, a door opened, and I allowed for it to come in, and now she's a friend. And so we just all have to find our own ways, but try to take the blinders off. Look around, because where you end up with your eyes wide open, sure, it may not be what you expected. It can be better than you ever dreamed in many, many ways. So I just want the best for you all. Thank you so much for sticking with me. I don't even know how long this video has been going. I know it got kind of long, but that article was excellent. So I'm going to save it and we'll run through it in the future videos that I do. I would like to look and see how far it goes, but it looked like an excellent article. So I will absolutely attach that to this video. If you have any comments, any questions, whoops, shaking the table. If you have any comments, questions, go for it. Ask. I'm here. Just ask that you keep it kind. I mean, let's be good examples instead of horrible warnings, okay? This is a community, and we need to be there for one another in positive, uplifting ways. So let's be kind to one another. But yeah, feel free to like, subscribe, share with whoever. I'll attach all these links so you can also share those with your friends and family. But yeah, great conversation today. I love the idea of being in the flexible thinking. Be flexible. Don't fight it. Don't fight it so hard that you miss out on the good, okay? Because there's lots out there. All right, well, until next time, I'm out of here. You guys have a beautiful Monday. I don't know when I'm going to post next. It may be tomorrow, maybe the weekend. I don't know. But whenever it is, I'll talk to you then. Bye.